Now that we have a plan, let's go ahead and code our rock, paper, scissors game. So the first thing I'm going to do is right click on the project and let's add a class that's going to represent our game. And let's call it the rock, paper, scissors game. Now the first thing in our flowchart was that we need to be able to set up all the scoring variables and the class that generates the random number for the computer's choice. So let's do that. We'll create some private fields for wins, losses, and ties. Now we can't use the random number generator unless we instantiate it. So why don't we do that in the constructor? The shorthand code for constructors is CTOR, so I'm going to do that and then hit tab twice. And this is what's going to run when we create a new rock, paper, scissors game. And in this method, I just want to set my random number generator equal to a new random class. Now, our console needs a way to start the game. So let's create a method that allows the game to start. And a good name for that method, I think, is play. So let's say public void play. And this is where we're going to start the game. And the first thing we're going to do is prompt the user for their choice. So we're going to need a variable to hold that choice. So let's say string user's choice, and then we want to set that equal to what the user enters based on the prompt. And again, if we look at our flowchart, we see that when we prompt the user for a choice, we want to make sure that it's a valid choice. We don't want to let them continue unless they enter rock, paper, scissors, or quit. So let's move this into a method. So let's say user choice, and let's call the method prompt user. Now this doesn't exist yet, so let's create it. Now I could type this in like I have other methods, but I'm going to show you a little shortcut in Visual Studio. If I hover over this, you see that there's a little gray box here, and it says options to generate a method stub. I'm going to click that and choose generate a method stub for prompt user in, and it gives the name of our class. So let's click that and see what happens. It creates a private method called prompt user. It looks at the usage and says you're going to assign the result of this to a string. So I'm going to make this a string method. That's exactly what we wanted. Visual Studio can be pretty smart about this stuff. Now, I would like to prompt the user for a choice. So let's use console.write. And let's say enter your choice. And if they enter R, we'll say that's going to be rock. If they enter P, we're going to say that's going to be paper. If they enter S, that'd be scissors. Or Q, if they want to quit. And let's create a variable here to contain what's read in from the console. Just like that. Now the next thing we need to do is check if what they entered was an R, P, S, or Q. And I better fix up my message up here as well. There we go. So let's say if the choice is R or the choice is P or the choice is S or the choice is Q, then we can just return the choice. Everything's good. However, If it's not one of those, then it's invalid input. And we'll say console, write line, that was not a valid choice. Now, according to our flowchart, we would like to prompt them again if they didn't enter a valid choice. Here, that means we want to loop until the data is valid. We don't know how many times it's going to take the user to enter a valid choice. So in this case, a while loop is appropriate. So let's wrap this in a while loop, and I'm going to show you a little programmer's trick. Because if the data is valid, we're going to return, which is going to leave the method. In this particular case, that means our while loop does not really need a complicated expression. We can just say while true. True will always be true. So that means that this loop effectively will run forever until the user enters a valid choice, and that gets returned. A return statement will always break you out of any loops and exit a method. So now we have effectively trapped the user inside this method. And let's test it to be sure. Because right now, if we call play, it's going to prompt the user and it's going to stay in this loop. But after it gets valid results, it's going to leave this and exit the game. So let's give that a test. Let's create a variable for our game. Just like that. And let's call game play. We'll run our program. And here we see that it's prompting us. Let's try to enter something bad like Z. That was not a valid choice. And it puts the prompt up again. And then if I hit any valid choice like rock, it exits the game. That's what we expected to see.